Hey guys, what's up? Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Digital Titans. After the intro session we have had, it's time for us to understand what are the different elements of digital marketing, because you cannot move forward if you don't have a clear demarcation in your mind as to what each of these elements do. First things first, there are a lot of practices where people start training on SEO first. There are a lot of people who talk about social media first. But in my opinion, and in my 15 years of experience so far, I realized that if you understand how Google Ads work, 40 to 50% of your understanding on all the platforms other than Google is taken care of. If you understand how Google Ads work, the basic fundamental concepts of how PPC advertising works is absolutely taken care of. And I've been a strong enforcer of this methodology, because if you understand the basic fundamentals, all that you have to do after that is just plug in all the other platform specific information, because you already have the fundamental concept in place. So let's get started without any delay, and you will start talking about Google Ads first, because Google Ads is a very, very vital part of PPC advertising or search engine marketing. So what is so good about Google Ads? And we will start looking at how it works. What are the different things you need to keep in mind? Not just as far as Google Ads is concerned, but what are some of the terms that you need at the back of your head when you start learning search engine marketing is what we would be looking at now. So let's get started without any delay. And on your screen, you will see something called as Google Ads, which I've tried mentioning some of the few. I've tried mentioning a few of the things that are very, very specific and very important to Google Ads. Google Ads constitute one of the most important elements of search engine marketing. So when you talk about search engine marketing, you cannot talk about search engine marketing without Google Ads. I possibly doubt if there is any business out there that is advertising on the digital media but not looking at Google Ads. The chances are very, very, very slim. As I said, it's one of the most popular search engines in the world. There is no other search engine possibly as popular on the internet as Google. It is also believed, not just believed, and it is also proven in my experience that Google Ads is one of the few platforms that give you most return for the money that you spent. Now, if you are spending, let's say, $1, possibly Google is one of the biggest contributors of returns for that $1. So if I'm advertising on Google with spending $1, and the returns is kind of the return on the ad spend that you get is possibly guaranteed in a way as Google is concerned, because you will never go through a loss provided your campaigns are done properly. If you have messed up your campaigns, it is highly unlikely that you will see success. But if your campaigns are set up properly, there is no better platform than Google to start with. This is not to imply that the other platforms are not as good as Google or they may not yield results. In some cases, you will see that the other platforms give you better results than Google. But all I'm saying is Google, if set up correctly, is bound to give you results, and it will never dump you and say that your campaigns are failing. There may be other platforms that give you better results, but Google certainly gives you results, is what the point of this discussion is. And much more is what we would be looking at. So let's get started so let's look at what else do we have to Google Ads. Now, if you start looking at, if you start understanding the other aspects of Google Ads, you need to look at things like, why do people use Google Ads, right? I mean, there are so many things other than Google, but why do people use Google Ads is one thing that you need to understand. And what are some of the best things that Google Ads provide? Some of the best features, right? Then how do you learn Google Ads if you are a business versus a practitioner or a marketer or a student for that matter, right? Now, then you will start looking at how does it work, right? And then we will start looking at some important terms that you need to be familiar with, not just on Google, but also on other platforms, other marketing platforms. Now, some things can't change. For example, when you talk about clicks, clicks are the same. Whether you have click on Facebook or Google, clicks mean the same thing. So these things can't change, right? So let's start looking at the other aspects of why do people use Google Ads? I mean, what's so good about Google Ads? The why of Google Ads is very important to understand because Google is so flexible, so it's filled with features that give you so much of value. And first things first, you need to understand majority of searches happen on Google on the internet, right? So if you start looking at the search engine market, possibly Google has the biggest share. Let's not get into what is the actual share of market, but let's say Google owns the majority of the share. Then you have Bing, then probably you have Yahoo and other search engines. Let's call them miscellaneous. So Google possibly has the biggest market share ever as far as search engines are concerned. So majority of traffic coming from Google to websites means that people should start looking at Google more when it comes to advertising, and they eventually end up doing that. Google is kind of flexible. It gives you so many features. 3 is it is very easy. It is not too complicated. You don't need to have a solid understanding of how the digital marketing ecosystem works. It's kind of easy to set it up. And you can start off small. This is one of the biggest thing. Now, small budgets are enough to start with. You can scale them up as you go, but you can start off with small budgets and see how it works. You can test the waters first and then see if you want to take the plunge and go all in, invest all your money on Google Ads and see how it works. Apart from that, it's got a huge network. When I say huge network, you can advertise on google.com, google.ua, google.com, google.ca, google.com.sg, google.co.nz, any country specific Google domain you can advertise. You can also advertise on the biggest video platform ever, which is YouTube. You can also start showing your ads on other third-party websites that Google is tied up with or partnered with. These are called as publishers. Now you can also show your ads on these platforms, right? Now, what else could you ask for? You have the features. You can start off small. It's flexible. It's easy. It's one of the biggest search engine which gets a lot of traffic each day. It is a huge network. You have Google, you have YouTube, and you have other websites. So basically all of these things make advertising on Google a winner proposition because you have everything that you need for your business to succeed. Now, when you have a lot of businesses using these, let's say you have a lot of businesses advertising on Google, it also means that the number of jobs are also more if you're well versed with Google Ads. Forgive my handwriting because I just need to improvise as I move forward, which I hopefully will do. All right, so this is the why part of it. So let's do a quick run through of what factors make people to go ahead and start considering advertising on Google. Majority of searches happen on Google. It is one of the biggest search engines, a major shareholder in terms of the market size. A lot of people search on Google every day. So majority of searches coming from Google means that businesses would obviously be prone to advertising more on Google because a lot of people come to this website. It's flexible, it's easy. You can start off small. You don't have to invest, let's say, hundreds of millions of dollars to start with. You can start off with as simple as $10 or $25 a day, and then you can test the waters. And if it works out, you can always scale it up. Then you have a huge network that Google offers. You have Google search, you have YouTube, and you have other websites those are called as publishers. Moving forward. All right. So the why aspect is done. Now we need to understand what's so good about it. I think we have also looked at not just the why aspect. We've also looked at what are some of the features that Google has. We will talk about that in specific, but we need to understand some of the most used terms or phrases that is very familiar, not just to Google but to other platforms as well. So let's understand what these things mean. So you have clicks, then you have impressions, then you have something called as CTR, then you have something called as budget, then you have something called as budget, then you have something called as bid, then you have something called as a landing page, then you have something called as anything else that we're missing out on. I don't think so. Let me check. Maybe you have something called as an ad, right? Or a keyword. So these are some of the things that you need to understand. Alright, so when we talk about clicks, it's very simple, right? It's very simple. Let's assume this is google.com, right? Now on google.com, there are ads that you know, right? Then these are all the free listings. Then you have some more ads on Google. Now, when somebody searches for something, let's say he searches for books, right? Now this books is called as a keyword, right? It can be books, it can be books online, it can be buy books online. Any word or a phrase or a combination of words is called as a keyword. Now what you see here at the top, which are labeled with a small square called ad, these are called as ads. Now all the other things that you see here are your free listings, which means you don't have to spend money to advertise on that. So we will be talking about this in the next slide as well. But then at this point in time, remember, when people put in a phrase or a set of words together, it's called as a keyword or a search query. Although there is a slight difference between keyword and search query, which I will talk to you about in a while. Now a keyword is what appears here. Now ads are what you see here at the top. Then you have free listings. Assume I have come on to Google. I have put in a keyword called books and I saw a few listings. For some reason, the first ad that I see is appealing to me. So I go ahead and click on this ad. What did I do again? I clicked on the ad. Exactly. Now that is called as a click. Right? Now what happened before I clicked on the ad? Before I clicked on the ad, don't you think I saw the ad? Is it possible for me to click on an ad without even seeing it? Absolutely not, right? Now let's go through the process again. So I went on to Google and I put in a keyword called books. What happened when I did that? When I did that, I saw a set of ads. When you see a set of ads, or should I say, when a set of ads get displayed, it's called as an impression. If the ad gets displayed once, it's called as one impression. If the ad gets displayed 100 times, it's called 100 impressions. If an ad gets displayed 1,000 times, doesn't matter. You don't have to be the person searching for it 1,000 times, but there are other people searching for books as well across the world, right? So these are all different people searching for different locations on google.com for the word books. Now assume that all these people, there are 10,000 people who searched and the ad got displayed 10,000 times. Now how many impressions is it? It is 10,000 impressions. So that's what an impression is. So every ad will have some impressions and clicks. That's your impression. All right. Now imagine the same situation where my ad got showed 1,000 times. So how many impressions is it? 1,000 impressions. There are 10 people who clicked on the ad. Right? So what is the ratio of this? The ratio is very simple. Your clicks divided by your impressions into 100. So it is the ratio of how how click-worthy or what is the ratio of, what is the probability? Now, what is the ratio of your clicks to impressions is exactly what CTR determines. So your CTR means your total number of clicks divided by impressions into 100. So in this case, I've got 10 clicks out of how many impressions? 100 impressions. So just multiply by 100. Now this gives you 10%. Now that's your CTR. CTR is always calculated in percentage. Remember that. All right. That's about it. So you have clicks, you have impressions, you have CTR. So out of 10 people, out of 1,000 people, 10 people clicked on my ad. So that makes my CTR as 100. That makes my CTR 10%. So that's how Google automatically calculates your CTR. By the way, you don't have to calculate about how much is the CTR for each keyword. Google does it all for you. You don't have to worry about that. Budget. Now let me give you an interesting situation. If you wanted to buy a car, right, what would you decide? So what would you do first? Would you look at your neighbor to buy a car, or would you look at TV? Would you look at your TV shows? How would you decide what car to buy? The first thing that determines what car to buy is your budget. How much money do you have in your bank? Now, if I have, let's say, $100,000 in my bank, I will buy a car accordingly. If I don't have so much of money, probably I will buy a second-hand car. So all that decides how much or what car to buy is primarily how much money do you have, and who decides it? Your bank balance decides it. Similarly, if you want to run Google ads, who decides how much budget to have? The advertiser decides how much he or she wants to spend. Google never tells you that this is a minimum requirement. You can decide how much ever you want to advertise for your ads. Technically, it can be $1 also. Technically, but $1 is not enough for the competition. But I'm just saying, technically, you can even advertise with $1. Then you have bid. Bid is nothing but, let's go back to this situation where somebody clicked on your ad, right? When somebody clicked on the ad, whose ad is this? Let's assume this is Amazon's ad. Now, when I go ahead and click on the Amazon's ad, Google has helped Amazon to get a click from me. Now, Google will go ahead and charge Amazon some money. Now, that money is called as bid. Now, Amazon has to pay money to Google. So that becomes your bid. When people click on your ad, when I clicked on the ad here, what happened? So let's assume this is Google. These are the ads. These are your free listings. So I came here, I found this ad to be good, and I clicked on the ad. When I click on this ad, I get taken to a website, right? It could be Amazon, it could be any advertiser. Now this website is called as landing page. This is the page where I landed as a user, right? So I went on to Google and I happened to land on this page after I clicked on the ad. So that's called as a landing page. Ad or keyword, we have already understood that when somebody searches for something on google.com, it's a keyword. You see a set of ads displayed. Now those are called as ads. We will see some real scenarios in the next session. I will also show you some searches and how effective keywords are and how changing a letter in a keyword can make all the difference to you. Stay tuned and stay tuned for the next session. Until then, this is Casey signing off. Cheers, guys.